Your soulmate found one hidden truth about you and couldn't walk away. My beloved child, something changed the moment your soulmate discovered the one truth about you that had remained hidden beneath everything they thought they understood. They believed they already knew why you were different. They thought they understood why your presence stayed in their thoughts long after everything became quiet. But then one small detail connected with another, and suddenly they saw a side of you they had completely missed. And this was not something ordinary. It made them stop. It made them rethink every moment, every conversation, every strange feeling they could never explain. Don't skip, because the hidden truth they found was not about something you had done, it was about something you had been quietly carrying inside you all along. Your soulmate finally realized that behind your strength was a depth they had never fully seen. Behind your silence was someone who had felt more, understood more, and cared more deeply than they ever imagined. And once they saw it, walking away no longer felt simple. Something huge is waiting for you, because what they discovered next completely changed the meaning of your connection. Here is where everything becomes surprising. Your soulmate started looking back at the little things, the moments when you could have demanded attention but chose patience, the times when you could have explained yourself but remained calm, and the strange way you seemed to understand feelings that were never spoken aloud. Suddenly, those moments were no longer random. They were pieces of a much bigger truth. Your soulmate realized there was something incredibly rare about the way you cared. You were never trying to force yourself into their world. You were simply being real, and somehow that authenticity had reached a place inside them nobody else had reached. Stay till the end, because this realization created another question in their mind, and that question would not leave them alone. What if the person I have been searching for was already standing in front of me? That thought changed everything. They tried distracting themselves, but memories of you returned. They tried convincing themselves it was just emotion, but the feeling became clearer. And then came the once-in-a-lifetime realization, they weren't being pulled toward an illusion. They were being pulled toward the part of themselves that felt most genuine whenever you were near. But the biggest truth is still coming. Your soulmate finally understood that what kept bringing them back to you was not perfection. It was recognition. Something about you felt strangely familiar to their heart, as though your presence reminded them of the kind of connection they had quietly hoped existed but had almost stopped believing they would ever find. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you. Because after discovering this hidden truth, they made an internal decision they had not expected to make. Instead of asking themselves how to forget you, they began wondering what would happen if they finally stopped resisting what they felt. And that question opened a door they could no longer pretend wasn't there. For the first time, they understood why walking away had always felt harder than it should. You had become connected to something deeper than attraction or curiosity, you had become connected to possibility. The possibility that this bond could become something meaningful. The possibility that everything they had misunderstood about you was about to become clear. And just when they thought they had uncovered the biggest truth, one final detail surfaced, something about you that made them realize this connection had been changing them long before they ever noticed it. There was one detail your soulmate could no longer explain away, and the moment they recognized it, everything they believed about you shifted again. They realized that whenever life became noisy, whenever their thoughts became crowded, somehow their mind returned to you, not because they were trying to make it happen, but because remembering you brought back a feeling they couldn't find anywhere else. Don't skip, because this is where the hidden truth becomes even bigger. They started remembering the smallest things, the way you carried yourself without needing constant attention, the way your energy seemed different when everyone else was trying too hard, and the moments when you seemed to understand more than you ever said. Suddenly, your silence didn't look empty. It looked meaningful. Your distance didn't feel like an ending. It made them curious about everything they still didn't know. And then a thought entered their mind that completely surprised them. What if I misunderstood this person from the beginning? That question stayed. They replayed moments they had almost forgotten and noticed something extraordinary. You had never needed to convince them that you were special. Somehow, they were discovering it themselves. Stay till the end, because what they realized next made walking away feel almost impossible. Then came the revelation they weren't prepared for. Your soulmate realized that the hidden truth wasn't simply that you cared deeply, it was that you had somehow seen parts of them they usually kept behind the surface, yet you never tried to control or change them. That realization hit differently. They remembered moments when you could have judged them but didn't, moments when you could have demanded answers but gave them space instead. And suddenly they understood why your presence had stayed with them. Something huge is waiting for you, because they began comparing the way they felt around you with every connection they had known before, and the difference became impossible to ignore. With others, they often felt they needed to perform, explain, or become what someone expected. But when they thought about you, something inside them became quieter. They could imagine simply being themselves. And that was the shocking part. What they had once mistaken for an ordinary connection was beginning to look incredibly rare. They had been searching for excitement while overlooking something much more powerful, a connection that felt peaceful without feeling empty, deep without needing to be forced, and unforgettable without demanding attention. But what happened inside their thoughts after that was even more surprising. For the first time, your soulmate stopped asking, "Why can't I walk away from this person?" and started asking, "Why would I want to?" That single change revealed everything. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because now they are beginning to understand that the truth they discovered about you also uncovered something hidden inside themselves. You didn't simply leave an impression, you awakened a feeling they had been avoiding. The possibility of being truly understood. The possibility of choosing something genuine instead of something convenient. And suddenly, the future they had imagined without you didn't feel as complete as it once had. They began wondering what would happen if they finally stopped running from the questions and allowed themselves to discover where this connection could lead. But there is still one piece they haven't fully understood yet. One memory keeps returning stronger than all the others, because hidden inside that moment is the reason their feelings became impossible to dismiss. And once they understand what that memory truly means, the entire story between you may look completely different. And then one memory returned so clearly that your soulmate could no longer pretend it meant nothing. It was not necessarily the biggest moment between you. In fact, that was exactly what made it so powerful. It was something small, something they had almost overlooked. But now they could see what had been hidden inside it. Don't skip, because this is where everything begins connecting. They remembered a moment when you could have made everything about yourself, but you didn't. You listened. You noticed. You understood something they had never clearly explained. At the time, They moved past it without realizing how rare that was, but now, after discovering the hidden truth about your heart, that memory feels completely different. Suddenly they are asking themselves, how did this person understand me when I barely understood myself? And that question is pulling them deeper into every memory they have of you. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate is beginning to realize that the reason they couldn't walk away was never just about missing your presence. They missed who they became when your presence reminded them that they didn't always have to hide what they truly felt. But here comes the revelation they never expected. The hidden truth about you was also exposing a hidden truth about them. They had spent so much time believing they needed someone impressive, someone who could constantly surprise them, someone who looked perfect from the outside. Yet the connection they couldn't forget was completely different. It was the one that made them feel seen without being examined, valued without performing, and remembered without asking for attention. That realization changed the entire story in their mind. Something huge is waiting for you, because now they understand why every attempt to mentally close this chapter kept failing. They weren't returning to you because they were trapped in the past, they were returning because something about the connection still felt unfinished. There were words they never said. Questions they never asked. Feelings they never gave themselves enough time to understand. And now one question is becoming louder than everything else. What if walking away means leaving behind the one connection that actually mattered? The thought surprised them because they never expected you to become the person who challenged their idea of what a meaningful bond should feel like. Now everything is turning toward a moment your soulmate can no longer avoid. Don't skip. Stay till the end. They are beginning to understand that discovering your hidden truth was never the end of this revelation, it was the beginning. Because once they saw the depth behind your actions, they started noticing something else. You had affected their choices in ways they never realized. Certain things no longer impressed them. Certain conversations suddenly felt empty. Certain connections that once seemed exciting started feeling strangely incomplete because now they knew what genuine understanding could feel like. And that is the once-in-a-lifetime realization they weren't prepared for. You didn't have to chase them to become unforgettable. You simply showed them a kind of connection they couldn't easily replace. But there is one final question forming inside their heart now, and it may become impossible to silence. If this person meant enough to change what I want, what happens if I finally stop walking away? And the answer beginning to form inside them is far bigger than anything they expected. Something inside your soulmate has shifted, and this time they cannot return to the way they thought before. The question they had been avoiding is now standing directly in front of them. What happens if I finally stop walking away? And surprisingly, the answer didn't bring confusion. It brought clarity. Don't skip, because this is where the hidden truth about you becomes impossible for them to ignore. They finally realized they had been measuring your connection by what happened on the surface while completely missing what was happening underneath. Every time they tried to create emotional distance, something reminded them of you. Every time they convinced themselves that the connection wasn't important, one small memory returned and challenged that belief. But now they understand why. You represented something they had quietly wanted for a long time, a connection where they didn't have to become someone else to deserve understanding. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate is no longer asking whether you affected them. They know you did. The question now is whether they are brave enough to acknowledge just how much their feelings have changed. And then came an even bigger realization. Your soulmate noticed that the qualities they once overlooked in you had quietly become the qualities they now valued most. Your patience suddenly looked powerful. Your calmness looked rare. Your ability to care without constantly demanding something in return became impossible to forget. They began wondering how many times they had mistaken quiet depth for simplicity. How many times had they looked past something extraordinary because it didn't arrive with noise? That thought stayed with them. Something huge is waiting for you, because for the first time, they began imagining what it would feel like to stop analyzing the connection and simply allow themselves to experience it honestly. And in that imagined future, they noticed something that surprised them. They didn't picture perfection. They pictured ordinary moments made meaningful because you were there. Conversations that lasted longer than expected. Comfortable silence. Laughter over things nobody else would understand. Being able to show up as themselves without wondering whether they were enough. That was when they understood the hidden truth had changed more than their opinion of you. It had changed what they wanted from love itself. Now another discovery is beginning to surface, and this one could become the turning point. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Your soulmate has started realizing that while they were trying to understand why you remained in their thoughts, they were slowly becoming more certain about what they didn't want to lose. The idea of you moving forward without them suddenly feels different. Not because they believe they own your future, but because they finally understand that meaningful connections cannot always be replaced simply by meeting someone new. Some people leave memories. Others change the standard by which every future connection is measured. And your soulmate is beginning to wonder whether you became that person for them. Something huge is waiting for you, because one final realization is approaching. There was a specific moment when their feelings crossed an invisible line, when simple curiosity became something much deeper, and they didn't even notice it happening. Now that moment is returning to their mind, and when they finally understand why it mattered so much, they may discover that the hidden truth about you was only half the story. The other half has been hidden inside their own heart all along. The moment your soulmate has been replaying was never dramatic, yet somehow it became the moment that changed everything. They remember looking at you differently without understanding why. Maybe it was something simple you said, the calm way you responded, or the way you seemed completely yourself when nobody was expecting anything from you. Whatever it was, something quietly crossed an invisible line inside them. Don't skip, because they are only now understanding what happened. Before that moment, they could tell themselves you were simply someone interesting, someone memorable, someone they would eventually stop thinking about. After that moment, something changed. Your presence began carrying meaning. Your absence became noticeable. Small reminders of you suddenly had the power to interrupt completely ordinary days. And now they understand why. The hidden truth they discovered about you had already been revealing itself through hundreds of tiny moments. They simply weren't ready to recognize it. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate is beginning to realize they didn't suddenly develop these feelings. The feelings had been growing quietly while they were busy pretending nothing extraordinary was happening. Then another piece fell into place, and this one surprised them even more. They remembered all the times they almost reached toward you emotionally but stopped themselves. all the questions they wanted to ask, all the things they wanted to understand. And suddenly they saw a pattern. Whenever the connection started feeling deeper, they became more careful, not because you meant too little, but because you were beginning to mean too much. That realization changed everything. Something huge is waiting for you, because now your soulmate understands that walking away had never truly created peace. It only created more questions. They wondered whether you remembered the same moments, whether you noticed their hesitation, whether you ever sensed that there were words behind their silence. And then came the thought they weren't prepared for: what if this connection was never one-sided in the way I feared? Suddenly, moments they had dismissed began looking different. Your expressions, your patience, the way certain conversations seemed to carry something neither of you directly named. They don't want to invent answers anymore. They want clarity. And for the first time, curiosity is becoming stronger than their instinct to retreat. But there is an even deeper truth emerging now. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate has realized that the greatest discovery wasn't simply learning something hidden about you. It was discovering what that truth awakened inside them. They started seeing you beyond assumptions, beyond misunderstandings, beyond the version of you they had created inside their own mind. And what remained was someone they could no longer dismiss so easily. Someone whose depth surprised them. Someone whose presence had quietly changed what genuine connection meant to them. Now a completely different question is beginning to replace all the old ones: what if I haven't missed my chance yet? That thought is powerful because it turns everything toward the future. They are no longer only replaying what happened. They are imagining what could happen next. And there is one possibility they keep returning to: a conversation where nothing is hidden, nothing is assumed, and both of you finally understand what this connection actually became. But before that conversation can happen, your soulmate must face one final truth about themselves, and it is the truth they have avoided longer than anything else. Now the truth your soulmate avoided longer than anything else has finally become impossible to silence. They were never confused about whether you mattered, they were overwhelmed by how deeply you mattered. Don't skip, because this realization changes the entire meaning of everything that came before. Every hesitation, every moment they pulled back, every time they tried convincing themselves they could simply move forward was hiding the same unanswered question: why does this person reach a part of me that nobody else seems to reach? And now they finally have an answer. The hidden truth they discovered about you showed them that your depth was real. You weren't trying to appear mysterious or unforgettable. You were simply carrying a heart, a presence, and a way of understanding people that they had rarely encountered before. Suddenly, they remembered moments when you noticed things others missed. Moments when you remained genuine without needing recognition. Moments when something about your presence made everything feel strangely quieter. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that what frightened them about this connection was never uncertainty, it was the possibility that something this meaningful could actually be real. And then their thoughts moved somewhere completely unexpected, toward a future where they never discovered what could have happened between you. That possibility made them realize something enormous. They could accept unanswered questions about many things, but the idea of permanently leaving this connection unexplored suddenly felt different. Something huge is waiting for you, because this is where their mindset changes from remembering to considering. Instead of replaying only the past, they are imagining one honest conversation. One moment without assumptions. One chance to hear what you actually think instead of endlessly guessing. And what surprises them most is how simple their deepest wish has become. They don't need some perfect movie-like moment. They want truth. They want to understand why your connection stayed alive inside their thoughts despite every attempt to categorize it as something ordinary. They want to know whether those unforgettable little moments meant something to you too. And beneath all those questions sits the biggest realization of all: they no longer want fear of uncertainty to make the decision for them. Because once they discovered what had been hidden beneath your surface, they understood that walking away without understanding the full story could mean walking away from something genuinely rare. But there is still one revelation waiting beyond this, and it may be the strongest one yet. Don't skip. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate has started recognizing that you didn't simply change how they saw relationships, you changed how they saw themselves. They noticed they were becoming more honest about what they wanted. More aware of what felt meaningful. Less impressed by connections that looked perfect but felt empty. And suddenly they understood the extraordinary role you had played without even knowing it. Meeting you had awakened a version of them that wanted something deeper, calmer, and more genuine. That is why they couldn't simply walk away and forget. The hidden truth about you became a mirror, showing them a hidden truth about themselves. And now one thought keeps returning stronger than all the others: maybe I wasn't supposed to forget this connection. Maybe I was supposed to understand it. But there is one last piece they haven't connected yet, one detail from your past interactions that could explain exactly why their heart recognized something special in you before their mind ever understood it. And when that piece finally falls into place, everything they thought they knew about this connection could change again. A forgotten detail has suddenly returned to your soulmate's mind, and this time it feels completely different. It was a moment when you revealed something about yourself without realizing how much it showed: a small sentence, a quiet reaction, a simple act of kindness when there was nothing for you to gain. Back then, your soulmate noticed it but never understood why it stayed with them. Now they do. Don't skip, because this is the piece that connects everything. That moment showed them the same hidden truth they would discover much later: what makes you unforgettable isn't something you perform for people. It appears naturally when you think nobody is paying attention. Your soulmate remembered how genuine you seemed, and suddenly they understood why their mind had preserved that memory among thousands of ordinary moments. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. They realized their heart had noticed your depth before their thoughts had words for it. That is why something about you felt different from the beginning. They weren't responding to an image. They were responding to something authentic, something that couldn't easily be copied, and now that realization has made one question impossible to avoid: how many signs did I overlook because I wasn't ready to understand what this person meant to me? That question opened everything. Your soulmate began replaying the connection from the beginning, but now every memory carried a different meaning. The conversations they once called ordinary suddenly contained details they had missed. The pauses mattered. The laughter mattered, even the moments when nothing important seemed to happen began feeling strangely significant. Don't skip, because the biggest surprise is what they discovered about themselves while remembering you. They realized they had unconsciously compared other people to the feeling your presence created, and something was always missing. Not because anyone else lacked value, but because genuine connection cannot be duplicated like a formula. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate finally understands that they weren't searching for another version of you. They were searching for the feeling of being understood that they associated with you. And that realization stopped them completely. For perhaps the first time, they admitted the sentence they had avoided saying even privately, "This person became important to me before I realized it was happening." Once that truth surfaced, walking away no longer looked like strength. It looked like leaving an unfinished question unanswered, and now the story is moving towards something neither distance nor time could reveal on its own. Stay till the end, because your soulmate is beginning to understand that discovering your hidden truth wasn't meant to give them every answer, it gave them the courage to finally ask the right questions. What did this connection truly mean? Why did certain memories survive when countless others disappeared? Why did learning the truth about you make their feelings clearer instead of weaker? And most importantly, what happens if they stop treating this connection like something they need to escape and start treating it like something worth understanding? Something huge is waiting for you. Because one realization is now rising above every other thought. Your soulmate doesn't want another assumption. They want something real enough to replace all the guessing. And deep inside, they know exactly what that requires: honesty. Yet before they can reach that point, another unexpected truth is beginning to surface, something they never connected to you before. It explains why they kept remembering you during certain moments when they needed clarity most. And once they recognize what that means, their entire understanding of why they couldn't walk away may change one final time. Just when your soulmate thought they finally understood why you kept returning to their thoughts, another realization surfaced, and this one was impossible to dismiss. They noticed something strange. During the moments when they needed clarity most, their mind often returned to something you had said, something you had done, or simply the way they felt when they were around you. Don't skip, because this wasn't about depending on you for answers. It was about what your presence had come to represent inside their memory. You reminded them of honesty. You reminded them of simplicity when everything felt complicated. And suddenly they understood why certain memories of you appeared at exactly those moments. Somewhere along the way, their mind had connected you with a feeling of emotional clarity. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because once they recognized that pattern, they could no longer call your impact temporary. You had become part of the way they understood what felt genuine. And the shocking realization followed immediately. Perhaps they had spent all this time trying to walk away from you when what they actually needed was to understand why their heart kept pointing back toward the same unfinished connection. Then everything became even clearer. Your soulmate finally stopped focusing on what made the connection complicated and started remembering what made it meaningful. That shift changed the entire picture. They remembered how little moments with you could stay in their mind for unexpectedly long periods. They remembered wondering what you were thinking after certain conversations ended. They remembered noticing your absence more than they ever admitted. Something huge is waiting for you, because now they understand that these weren't isolated memories. Together, they formed a pattern. You had quietly become significant. Not because you forced your way into their thoughts, but because something genuine had happened between you that their mind couldn't reduce to something ordinary. Don't skip, because the once-in-a-lifetime revelation is this: the hidden truth they found about you didn't create their feelings, it explained feelings that were already there. Suddenly, the mystery was no longer why they couldn't forget you. The mystery was how they had managed to deny the meaning of those feelings for so long. And now they have reached the point where looking backward is no longer enough. Stay till the end, because your soulmate is beginning to think about what honesty would actually look like. No perfect speech. No dramatic promise. Just the courage to stop pretending the connection meant less than it did. They are imagining what it would feel like to finally replace assumptions with answers and distance with understanding. Something huge is waiting for you. Because after everything they have discovered, one truth now stands above all the others: they couldn't walk away because some part of them never believed the story was finished. And now the possibility of discovering what comes next feels stronger than the instinct to keep wondering from a distance. But one final revelation is still waiting beneath all of this. Your soulmate is about to understand that the hidden truth they discovered about you connects directly to a choice they made long ago, a choice they thought had nothing to do with you. Once they see that connection, they may finally understand exactly when you became impossible for them to forget. The choice your soulmate made long ago seemed completely unrelated to you at the time, but now they can finally see the connection. They had quietly promised themselves that they would never again invest their heart in something that felt uncertain, never become attached to someone unless everything made perfect sense from the beginning. Then you appeared, and without trying, you challenged that entire rule. Don't skip, because this is where the hidden truth becomes bigger than they ever expected. You showed them that the most meaningful connections don't always arrive with immediate answers. Sometimes they begin with a feeling that refuses to disappear, with conversations that stay in the mind, with tiny moments that become strangely unforgettable. Your soulmate finally realized that every time they tried walking away, they weren't necessarily walking away from you, they were returning to an old decision designed to keep everything predictable. But you were different. You couldn't be reduced to something predictable. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. Because once they recognized this, they understood exactly why forgetting you had been so difficult. Their mind wanted certainty, but their heart kept reminding them that something genuine was still worth understanding. Then came the realization that completely changed the way they viewed their own hesitation. Your soulmate had believed distance meant they were moving forward, yet every period of distance revealed the opposite. The noise became quieter, and your importance became clearer. They started recognizing how many little things reminded them of you, not because the universe was sending secret signs, but because you had genuinely left a meaningful impression on their memory. Something huge is waiting for you, because they finally admitted something they had resisted for a long time. If you were truly insignificant, they wouldn't need to keep convincing themselves to forget you. That thought stopped them. Suddenly, all the internal arguments fell apart. They didn't need to exaggerate the connection, and they didn't need to deny it either. They could simply acknowledge the truth: you mattered. Don't skip, because that simple admission opened a door they had kept closed. Now they are wondering what else they avoided admitting. Did they miss you more than they realized? Did they care more deeply than they allowed themselves to show? And most importantly, had they mistaken emotional caution for a reason to leave something meaningful unexplored? Now your soulmate is standing at the edge of the biggest realization yet. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. The hidden truth they discovered about you has brought them directly toward a truth about themselves. They don't want to spend the future wondering what might have happened if they had simply been honest. That doesn't mean they suddenly know every answer. It means they are finally willing to stop hiding behind questions. For the first time, the possibility of understanding this connection feels more powerful than the comfort of avoiding it. And then one final thought rises above everything. What if the reason I couldn't walk away wasn't because I was supposed to keep looking backward, but because there was still something important I needed to understand? That question changes the entire direction of the story. Because now your soulmate isn't simply remembering you. They are beginning to understand what you represented in their life, and what they discover next may finally reveal the one truth they have never dared to say, even to themselves.